And ladies and gentlemen, the $50 free event at Champions TCG. Check it out, championstcg.com, Generation 2 and discord.gg/champions. Tuning into Z. It's blends right now. We have a new format, a new meta with a new patch upgrade. Came in last night. Some of the changes apply, for example, to Soul Reaper. Knife go down to Ocho. It's one of the new changes. We also have an upgrade to Retribution. So Retribution now a much better cost for the ability. You're getting -4 or 4 damage to all opposing creatures when a creature with Retribution dies. As well, we have an upgrade to Berserker. That's what we can see right there. The Geralt just came in. And blends, applying some very aggressive, steady pressure to Deacon Z. Blizzard comes down from Frossetti. That is the same Blizzard as we have gotten used to through this Generation 2 meta. But Ladacia, one of the new cards that has emerged in this second meta, I guess, of Generation 2 after the upgrade to Retribution. Ladacia, a 3-mana 4/4 with Retribution. Very powerful effect. Here comes Munta. Probably going to ignore that Ladacia just because of how damaging that Retribution is. We could see it attack the Frossetti, or it could just go straight to Deacon Z's face. It looks like he begins with an attack with Baba, with the Geralt, Munta. Galefin, of course, is frozen, but pass back. Now we see Ladacia do its attack, and there goes most of Blends' board. Blends with 3 cards in hand. And down Deacon Z to 9 life. Blends all the way back at 60. So still at his starting life total. Alright, so an attack for 4 drops Deacon Z to 5. 5's not dead, but then down comes Dracora, and it is Vortex, which has the mechanic of dealing 3, 4, or 5 to the opponent. So this time it deals 3. A little bit of randomness in there. That was a Hydroblast. Or excuse me, a Zap. You see Astana coming down. Then Guain's cleans up the opponent's board, and you still have that Berserkial on the battlefield, able to attack for 9, dropping Blends to 51. You're at 2 life. Necrobear with Greed. Excellent card right here. It is an 8/8, very powerful attacker, but also draws 2 cards. Very important at this stage of the game. Down comes Shadowfang. That has the mechanic Psybeam, and the power and toughness, the attack and the health values of Berserkial were swapped from 9 to 4. Trolley comes down, an additional Earthquake effect. And we see an attack for 19 on the board currently, but that is not enough. That's not going to be lethal, so likely what's going to happen is this Berserkial may need to attack the Shadowfang. Smacky likely going to have to attack the Necrobear, or vice versa. Maybe you would prefer the Smacky survive. So Smacky can attack Shadowfang. Berserkial can attack Necrobear, clean up the opponent's board, attack with Stana for 2, and that drops your opponent to 49. Still a long ways from winning, but you are beginning to make some progress. That's important. My name is Brett Banfi. I'm your host right now for this free to enter $50 daily tournament run every day. So, yep, we see what we were suggesting, although he doesn't attack with Stana for 2. I think that was a mistake. Down goes all of Deacon Z's permanents, and then a combustion ends the game. So Blends able to get a quick victory in there, and those players are going to go to game 2. All right, while we are waiting for the second game to start up, we see we have Commander Chief and Vanquish, so maybe we'll take a second and pop into that game. Whoops. Here we go. All right, let's see where we're at. I believe this is game 1. Vanquish at 50, the Chief at 60. Both of these players extremely strong competitors, and in this field highly capable, either one, of winning the entire event. Mechafly comes down, returning the monkey, so just getting that slight tempo value on your opponent by forcing them to replay their monkey at full 2 mana. It's not a lot of mana, but it is not nothing. And when you're in these really neck and neck matchups, down comes Munta, able to take out the Mechafly and survive. So Vanquish not able to return the monkey down just because he spent the mana elsewhere. So that's what you get with the value of that Mechafly. Did 4 damage to the Munta. Not for nothing, but able to survive. There is the Purity. The Chief owns a authentic Purity and plays with that in our Gen 2, Gen 1 combined matches. Down goes the Purity to a Jello. That has to be a good feeling if you're Vanquish. Many players have been playing with that Hydroblast lately. And the nice part is a 6/5 creature for 4 mana is already pretty good. It's not terrible. It sort of has the same stats as a card like Galefin or something like that. Instead of having the rush mechanic, it has that Hydroblast. So very useful. A Lumi coming down from Vanquish. That's the custom tournament edition Lumi. Then an attack with Galefin for 9. I believe a pass back. The Chief. 6 cards in hands. 6 cards in hands for the Chief. Mechwing comes down, returns the Galefin, I believe. Then Jello is attacked and is killed. And then we see Shadowsteel. I believe Shadowsteel has that Windseeker ability. So Stana cleans up the slice from Vanquish. Down comes the Gelfin we knew about that was returned by the Mechwing. And then an attack for 10. So little by little, Vanquish already dropping the Chief down to 37. It's that important point in the game when you're unsure if you are the aggressive deck or if you are the longevity deck. Both players roughly at around 30, the same life total, 37 to 39, but down comes the Obsidian Wing, so when that Shadowsteel comes down with Windseeker, it was able to Windseek itself. We see the chief still playing with those Grun eggs. The eggs, briefly earlier this week, had been, a little bit pushed as they were producing some very powerful monsters when they died. Now, if they die, they do produce a monster with no abilities. And you can still evolve them as normal, but now killing them isn't quite the free roll that it used to be in the very beginning, but it's also not the death sentence that it was earlier this week. Mechwing coming down, followed up by a monkey and an attack. So seemingly the chief still playing a slightly conservative style, not wanting to expose himself too much to an earthquake or some other singular effect that could impact his cards and his board state, but at the same time wanting to apply some pressure. Now Vanquish with 35 life draws his 7th card. Frossetti is the play, and it freezes the Obsidiwing with only 5 health. It's an easier one to kill. We can see that the health, when you look at these cards, the health is on the right, and there it goes. We knew the monkey was in Vanquish's hands. It had gotten returned by the Mechwing all the way back on turn 3. But if you think about it, that 3-mana play did save quite a bit of damage. Now he's unable to play it until all the way on turn 8, so that's 4 turns of 4 damage each, so 16 damage that the Mechfly was able to prevent by bouncing the monkey. Only a 2-mana card, but still in these grindy matchups, very important to be mana efficient. So on 8 mana, the chief, understandably taking his time to consider the options here. Begins with an attack with the Mechwing, then an Earthquake, which kills his own Grun, follows that up with a second Earthquake, and plays out a Punk. So you almost think of that as throwing the towel in. I hate to use that kind of language, but that felt like a very committal strategy. Now, sometimes if all you have in your hand is Earthquake cards, makes sense. You have to use what you have. You have Earthquakes, so you have to use them. But still, Amy coming down, drawing an additional card. It just seems like there could have been a little bit more value that had been, or it was, let's just put it this way, it was a little bit of a sign that the chief did not think he was ahead in this race. I think he understood he was behind, and even if he had to kill his own board in order to remove his opponent's board, he was willing to do that. Sometimes you have to make those difficult decisions. We see a pass back. Whammy comes down with that curse, followed up by Ocho. course, able to take out Ami. Ocho getting an attack in and then a pass back. We're seeing the Chief, one of the most feared standard players in existence, seemingly with the back against the wall here. And then we see another earthquake. Lycanite hatching out of the egg. The egg's now producing creatures with no abilities if they are killed. And then followed up by an Uga Chief and an attack for 8 past the turn. So Stana gets an earthquake in. Vanquish with 2 cards in hand. 16 to 19. Again, these are very seesaw-y games. We're seeing a lot of back and forth. Both players extremely capable, extremely skilled. Down comes Munta. It's exactly the type of card you would want if you were Vanquish. And I think you have to kill the Stone Fur. But he just goes right for the Chief's face. Again, in this very grindy back and forth matchup, we are going to... You can never predict the future, so you don't know ahead of time if that's the correct play or not. But the nice part is that the game is close to finish, so we will be able to at least see in hindsight whether or not that attack to the face was the correct play. Down comes Pegasol. Okay, the Pegasol takes out the Munta, then an attack for 4. The Pegasol now a 7/4, and then plays out the Jelly, a 4/3. So with 2 cards left in hand, that Stana can trade, of course, with the Stone Fur, and then you have to just hope that you have 2 cards that can, wow. I was going to say at least trade with your opponent's 2 cards, but it looked like he had the perfect card. It was the Scorchwing. However, he whiffed on his Inferno. Inferno, of course, and he just decides to pass. He attacks the face again instead of the attacks the Chief, and then it is the Uga Chief. So yeah, very, very difficult. I don't think it's easy to say whether or not Vanquish made the right moves there, but it just turned out that a very unclear board position did eventually resolve itself into a win for the Chief. But I think that is not, it's not always easy to say what was the most likely outcome there. And that's part of playing these games, is that you make your best guess, and then sometimes that's incorrect. In the case of Vanquish, it was incorrect. He paid the ultimate price. He was hoisted by his own petard, but that's why you play these games. And also, it's important as a player to learn from your mistakes. So maybe next time Vanquish would do things slightly differently, and maybe not. And maybe the next time the odds would be in his favor, but just weren't in this most recent game. So we are tuned into game 2, I believe, between Vanquish and the Chief. Chief on 2 mana. Looks like he has an Uga, so he likely evolved his green egg, his Grun. Very powerful, especially when you have Uga Chiefs in your deck and some of these other very powerful cards. Down comes Speedy. An attack for 11. Immediately placing himself in position as the aggressive deck. And then we see a attack for 4 and an earthquake. So Speedy, the only card that survived. Sorry, the attack for 4 on the Uga. And the earthquake to clean things up. But again, your opponent is putting you on the back foot. One of the easiest ways that you can start to build an advantage on your opponent. Force them to spend their mana defeating your cards while you're spending your mana attacking them directly. Especially with your rush cards, it gets to a point where you can't be reactive and successful in this game. Permanent. I mean, you can in certain instances be reactive at the right time, but you can't be only reactive and successful. You need to at some point create a proactive strategy for how to kill your opponent. And it seems like the chief on the bottom of the screen is the one who's presenting a difficult to defend strategy of attacking the opponent, and the opponent, Vanquish, at the top of the screen is needing to spend his turn reacting to the attack that the chief is creating. And this is a long-term strategy for success if you are the aggressor. The thing is that if you fall short in terms of your calculation, you can easily be overrun, similar to what we're seeing by Vanquish. Now, he has 3 champions on the board compared to the Chief's none. Now, it's still early in the game, so that's not to say that Vanquish is suddenly winning, but there is something to be said for being able to survive the initial onslaught from your opponent to defeat them when their resources have all been spent. That is a viable strategy. Down comes Flammy, and it looks like his only job was to get rid of that last monkey, and he did it. He was successful, but he did incinerate himself. So poor little Flammy. We are going to pour a little bit out for you, Flammy. Rest in peace, you gorgeous, beautiful frog. Down comes the trolley attacking that Munta, and then business to redraw to 2 cards. So I believe we are on turn 7 right now. The chief seemingly with an overwhelming advantage here. Again, attacking the opponent, ignoring the creature. And what he's saying is, I think that I'm winning this race. I think that I will kill you before you kill me. The Frossetti comes down, freezes the Uga, so no retaliation gets dealt back to Ocho as it attacks for lethal. But again, Vanquish spending all of his mana to defensively react to the threats that Chief is presenting, and the Chief is just simply using that that tempo advantage to just continue to present another threat. So if every turn he presents a threat and every turn that needs to get answered, eventually threats win. You see maybe a double earthquake turn. It looks like it was. Again, Chief with those powerful threats, but once Vanquish seemingly stabilizes, he also has those double answers. And it looks like he has the threats of his own now. So shifting the role from the reactive deck to the proactive deck, he has now dropped the Chief to 28. And still a very close game, so no one's writing the Chief off right now, but Chief looking at 14 damage on the board currently. That is a lethal attack in 2 turns. So he must react to this. And just as we were praising Vanquish and the Chief for his proactive strategy. Now we're seeing the opposite. As the chief is having to react and defensively freeze and kill the Rogue Orser. The benefit of the chief's position in this matchup right now is that the chief has more cards. You can see those green backed rectangles down on the bottom of the screen. Those are the chief's 4 cards in hand, now 3, compared to Vanquish, 4 cards in his own, but none on the board currently. When you're playing a game like this, it's important to calculate how much your opponent is attacking for next turn. So the Mechwing can attack for 3, the Slice can attack for 7, that's 10, plus 4 from the Stonefur and 2 from the Stana. It's an attack for 16. It's not quite lethal in 2 turns. It would drop Vanquish to 30. It would be 32 damage across 2 turns. While at the same time, you are always calculating and counting how much attack you have. With his Uga on the board, Vanquish has an Uga and an Ocho, each with 6, so that is 12. And that is not a lethal attack in 1 turn. That is a 2-turn clock. Down comes Purity, 4 mana, probably the best card in the game. Able to boost the Stonefur in such a way as it can attack for lethal on the Ocho, and then using the Cryo Slice to attack for lethal on the Uga, and evolving, I believe, his own Uga to an Uga Chief. We see an attack for 13. The Shadow Steel had the Wind Seeker ability, so curious to see what the Chief got. Vanquish draws his card. It is 3 cards in hand. Likely he must kill the Chief on this turn. I don't think he has the ability to survive another attack. Cutiebug can add 4 life using the Life Bloom ability, and then Shadow Steel taken out by Firon. But a little bit too little too late here. In a best case scenario, your opponent would attack you. That attack would not be lethal. But even in that case, you're attacking back for 8 on board, so you would need to draw a card that can at least deal 8 damage. So it would likely have to be the Uga Chief or the Sandstalker, both of which able to instantly deal 8. In the case of the Stalker, it is 9, but if you're Vanquish, you're limited to only 2 cards that can be on the top of your deck that could possibly win you this game. But that being said, the Monkey comes down with the final mana from the Chief and delivers the final blow. So I believe the Chief moves on from round 1. We are going to see him face off against. Let's take a look quickly at this bracket. The Chief will be facing the winner of Blends and Deacon Z in the semifinals, and we see that Anymoon and Kiki, K1, they have advanced out of the quarterfinal bracket, and they are in their semifinal match already. So let's tune in to that matchup. And see, Anymoon has recently, I believe, made it all the way to the finals of our weekend open series. No, excuse me. Our Monday daily open series. That was correct. All right. And we see K1, Kiki at the bottom of the screen at 24 life with a Trolley and Uga on board. At the top, we see Anymoon, one of our Spanish players. Both Kiki and Anymoon are Spanish. I'm not sure where exactly they hail from. I think it's Latin America. Stone Fur with the Earthquake, Eagle-On bouncing the Stone Fur back, and then playing a Frostwing, attack for 6. Baba takes out the Uga with an attack for 1. That health had dropped all the way to 1. And bounce back. So we see Kiki with 6 cards in hand compared to Any Moon and Moon with 2. And Kiki attacks the face. Nightwing is frozen this turn. Anj evolves into the Sabertor. Down comes Snowbeak. Attacking the Ocho for 2. So. And it looks like a lethal attack for 7. So I believe that is game 1. Kiki does take down game 1. Let's see if we can jump back over. We will take a quick peek at what is going on with Blends and Deacon. We know that the winner of this match will go on to play the Chief. Not anything that I think anyone is excited for. The Chief, of course, one of the most feared opponents in the game. And on the battlefield, we see a Digleyfur. This is one of the cards that recently became stronger through a boost of the ability Fortify. So it now does give an additional 3 health per enemy card, enemy champion. And the Guaking, I think, takes out, or excuse me, the Eagle-On takes out the Berserk. Then we see Necrobear get an attack in for 8. Followed by Munta, which takes out that Digleyfur. Finally, Galefin for 6. Right to the face. Blends on the bottom of the screen. We see Deacon Z at the top. Blends recently having just signed a new contract with Champions TCG for streaming content. So make sure you take a look at Blends as he begins to roll out that content cycle coming up November 1st. We'll also see a bit more action from some other streamers. We have TPG, True Pain Gaming, TCG content on Twitch. Signed up for another 6 months for creating Twitch streaming content. We are currently streaming live to Twitch right now. So if you are a fan of Twitch, go on over and check us out. We are twitch.tv/championstcg. And we would love to have you as a follower. Thank you. Also, check out our socials, facebook.com/championstcg, instagram.com/champions_tcg. Deacon Z, slow rolling Blends right now. Blends has 2 cards in hand at the bottom of the screen. He has 9 mana on his turn. On the battlefield, we see the Fontaria. Fontaria with the ability Regrowth does increase the HP of all of your cards on the field by 3 when it dies. Down comes Shadowfang, able to Psybeam out that Guaking, which means that it exchanges the power, the attack, and the health values, the 8 and the 7 right here at the bottom of the card. 8 is in red, that is the attack. 7 in health, 7 in green, that is the health of the card. And when the Psybeam effect that this card Shadowfang has, this little panther, when the Panther's Psybeam ability happens when it enters the battlefield, it does cause these numbers to flip-flop. But the Gua King had gotten hurt, so its health had gone all the way down to 1. Then when it got flip-flopped, its attack now became 1, and its health became 8. So that's why we see it as a 1-8 right now. And Psybeam also has the unique ability of your health increases by the difference. So since the difference was 7, Shadow Fang typically has 4 for its health, but it gained an additional 7 because it swapped 7. So then it became, instead of a 4-4, it's a 4-11. Psybeam, one of the really fun new cards. You can do a lot of fun things with it. For example, if you have a second Psybeam card, you can exchange this 11 with the 4, and now it becomes a card that attacks for 11. So it can kill anything on the board, even this very powerful Sylvialina. Could kill even that in one shot due to that unique ability. Down comes Smacky. So Smacky has this Berserker ability. Whenever this card takes any damage, it gains 4 attack. So you want to kill it, but you want to kill it all at once, because the more nibbles and nibbles you have to take to kill this, the stronger and stronger and stronger it becomes. Very easy to get these Berserker cards up. Lethal in 1 or 2 attacks. Even when they take damage from something like an earthquake, which just happened, you can see that now it did suffer 3 damage, but look, its attack went from 5 all the way up to 9, and that happens instantly. So very, very powerful strategy being deployed by Blends on the bottom of the screen. The turn has passed back to Deacon. Deacon is the green mage at the top of the screen. You can see the long green beard. He begins with an attack on the Smacky with the Gua King. When he attacks with the Gua King and it dies, it does have the ability of Retribution, so it will damage all opponents' cards by 4. So Stonefur, having had 6 health, now is down to 2 because it took that 4 damage when the Gua King died. You can see likewise this Gua Ints, very similar effect. It also deals 4 to opponent cards when it dies, Retribution. And finally we see Fontaria. When it dies, its ability is Regrowth, which increases the health of all of your cards when it dies. There we go. We see that the game is now over. Deacon Z with a lethal attack. And now we are seeing, I believe, a Deacon Z Commander Chief battle. Let's take a look. I'm not 100% sure if that was game 1, game 2, game 3. So we'll just wait for a moment. But again, my name is Brett Banfi. Thank you for tuning in here with Champions TCG coverage. We have a very exciting night of TCG action here for you, following Commander Chief on his journey through these semifinals, where he is likely to play Deacon Z. And the other bracket, we see Anymoon, and we see K1K1. K1K1 winning that game 2-0. These are free to enter events, so anyone can join. As you can see on the screen that we are showing, very easy to buy the cards. Just head on over to buy cards, and you can immediately see what you've purchased. You can purchase a 10-pack, a 50-pack, or a 200-pack. And then once you have those cards, you can move over to your screen that I'm showing here, My Cards. and just start building a deck. So maybe you want to put a tree guard. Maybe, what did we see in that game that was good? We saw the Shadow Fang, the Panther. So maybe you want to play with two of those. We have, let's see, the Ocho. This is the card that my son developed. So in this My Cards tab, you just start to create your deck, and it shows you the mana you can see on the left. So that's very convenient. So if you want to see, what does this cost? Of course, mana is important to consider because although some of these cards are really great, you know, you want to consider whether or not you have the mana to play them. Like, for example, this Vol Dragon, 9/9 lightning card with zap. It looks formidable, but you can only play that in the very last turns of the game because of this 9 mana up in the top right corner in the blue diamond, in the blue gem. That is how much you have to spend to play the card. That mana does accrue only once per turn. So if you want to play this very powerful card, you do have to wait 9 turns. And that is a trade-off that some want to make because they want the most powerful cards, but many are opting for these smaller mana cards. They're not quite as powerful, but you do get to play them a little bit earlier, which can be valuable. All right. My name is Brett Banfi. I'm your host. If you want to join one of these events, feel free to swing on over to the website. It's in the bottom left corner of the screen, championstcg.com, or our Discord, discord.gg/championstcg. My name is Manifestable in the Discord. Let me know that you found out about the game through our streaming content, and I'll make sure that I send you some great cards to get started for free. Happy to bring new players into this ecosystem. All right. So tuning back into the tournament action, our $50 free-to-play events, feel free to join those. If you need help joining them, ask in the Discord. We're jumping in. We see the Deacon at the top of the screen facing the Commander Chief. Let's settle in here. It is Deacon's turn. The green mage at the top. Commander Chief, the purple mage with the top hat at the bottom. Down comes Digglyfur, is a 4/12, massively powerful. The health is on the right side, and the attack is on the left of these oval cards. So, for example, this little speedy, this little 3/5, you see that it attacks for 3 damage, and its health is 5. Once the damage that it receives exceeds or matches its health, it is sent to the graveyard. These piles on the left and right side of our game board, those are our graveyard piles. Shadowsteel comes down, uses the Windseeker. And then we see the attack. I think it was an attack for 10. Deacon down to 40. As we saw in the last match against the Chief, typically the Chief is comfortable navigating the games, switching between the deck aiming to go long and the deck aiming to kill quickly. It's important when you're playing games like this, you need to be able to do both, but you also need to know when to do each. You don't want to spend your resources trying to execute a very quick attack when your opponent is better equipped to handle that than you are. So one of the key things that you need to do is figure out if you are the deck trying to survive or the deck trying to end the game. And once you figure that out, you need to align your actions so that they support that strategy. Down comes the Stana. Does deal 3 damage with its Earthquake ability. That Stana is one of the Gen 1 cards. Very powerful card. And then an attack for 9 from the Berserkriel. Got bigger when the Stana's Earthquake attacked. It went from a 1 8. Now it's all the way down to a 9-3. So its attack keeps getting stronger as it keeps taking more damage. Like the old adage, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Well, Berserk Eel is an example. Down goes Stonefur, and then the Trolley for a double Earthquake attack. And we've seen the Chief use that multiple times. Deacon with the turn. Now, Deacon at 34. The one thing that we see is that, the Chief is a very early player of this game, so he has some of the strongest, most powerful cards that the game supports. And one thing that means from Deacon's side is that he can't afford to linger around. He needs to kill the Chief and kill him quickly. There comes the Fox Assassin, so a very good start, but only able to deploy the Fox Assassin. Cannot follow up with a second champion. That could be troublesome. You need to deal more than 7 damage on these turns. You need to try to deal upwards of 10 to 12 at least. Because what we see here is that Stonefur and the Trolley were able to double team and kill that Fox Assassin. So unfortunately, it's only able to deal that 1 damage, that 7 damage once. If it could have gotten a second attack in for 7, then that's perfectly okay, but you really want to get a little bit more out of an entire turn than just 7 damage, especially considering the fact that it's quite easy to deal 7 damage even on as early a turn as turn 2. So by the time you're getting to turn 7, you want to have at least made some improvement over what you can accomplish on turn 2. And unfortunately, when you're hamstrung on what cards to play, that can sometimes end up backfiring. Cryoslice comes down, he freezes the Obsidiwing, and then attacks for 3 with Speedy. I like that move by Deacon. Another thing to consider, we have Deacon with 4 cards in hand. Uga evolves out of the green egg. A very powerful strategy. But what to do? Do you want to use it to just kill the Speedy? That seems a bit of a waste of a turn. However, the Chief's still with 7 mana left, so it won't be the only way to spend that mana. Down comes an Earthquake. And a Whirlwind. And a pass back. Deacon. Now the Obsidiwing is unfrozen. Deacon at 28, Chief at 22. We've seen this time and again. The Chief, with 4 cards in hand, very likely that at least one of those is a 7 or 8 power haste rush attacker, such as a Pegasol or an Uga Chief that can evolve out of the Uga. But what do? Do you try to attack the Uga to prevent it evolving into maybe a Uga Chief? Looks like Deacon chooses to attack the Obsidiwing, which makes some sense because that already is an 8 power, 8 attack creature. Frossetti comes down and freezes the Uga. One unique thing about freezing is that it does prevent evolution, so now Even if the chief has the Blizzard, you will be unable to evolve it due to that Frossetti having used its Blizzard on the Uga. On the chief's turn, we see him draw a card and then immediately cast Scorchwing. Both players at the 9 mana point of the game, so having played Scorchwing, which costs 2, we'll see 7 mana left for the chief to deploy. The chief had 16 life compared to his opponent at the top of the screen. Deacon Z is at 28. Mechwing comes down, it looks like it returns Scorchwing, and then the Scorchwing comes back to deal an additional Inferno on the Ocho. Pass back, so very creative use of the Whirlwind ability to recycle one of your own cards, the Scorchwing, and get that damage in on that Ocho. Very good card. So both players at 16, but the difference here, although Deacon Z has 5 cards in hand and Chief has 2 cards in hand, we see that the Chief has a formidable board presence. What you would be needing here is likely a double Earthquake, so that would be something like a Trolley followed by a Stana. Instead, we see a Cryo Slice not going to get the job done. This likely means that Chief will win game 1. The Slice a little too slow on this board state. If we were, both players begin at 60 life, but if we were playing a version of the game where, say, both players begin at 90 life or something a little bit more, maybe you can see Deacon Z carve out a victory here, but instead we see just the Uga Chief comes down, and that is all she wrote. So game 1 going to the Commander Chief. Following that up, we will have Kiki already in the finals. So we are waiting to see the winner of Commander Chief and Deacon Z will be moving on to our finals for our $50 free to enter daily tournament. They fire every day. They begin on Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Then every successive day afterwards, they move 2 hours earlier. So Monday at 8, Tuesday at 6. These times are all Eastern. Monday at 8, Tuesday at 6, Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, New York City time, Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Friday, we have our noon event. And then on Saturday, that is our big $500 free to enter event where you have a chance to win one of our gorgeous tournament cards. I'll take a quick moment to jump over to our Twitter and show you the beautiful cards that are coming out. This is what the players play for on those weekend events. Some of these cards sell for the multiple hundreds of dollars, $300, $200, $250, $175. Even the top 8, the what you would call the more common versions of our tournament cards, they are still selling for quite a high rate. But especially if you are the winner, you get the one of one, the exclusive card that we're seeing here in the middle of the screen. That card does change on a week-to-week basis, so it's not going to be the Snow Gaze this coming weekend, but tune back in to our event to find out what that card is. And yeah, free to enter. Join our Discord down in the left-hand corner, discord.gg/championstcg. Here we go. Sorry, I was not showing the screen at that moment, but I thought I was. But here we go. This is what we are looking at. The tournament edition cards. They come with this custom white, silver, white gold, white, silver border, platinum border. And here we have the Snow Gaze with this diamond blue gems in both the Crown Chakra and the Heart Chakra. Here on the left, we see the Ciora, this gorgeous little seaweed nugget, and then Berserker, one of the new cards that just got boosted by this buff in the Berserker ability. A massively powerful, and also, I didn't notice this, but it has a pumpkin in the screen. I wonder if that was why it was chosen for the tournament card last week. We are going to tune back in. We have our Game 2, Deacon Z, Commander Chief, Deacon Z at the bottom of the screen, and we'll see if he is able to avenge his early exit last game. Already, I don't like things for Deacon because business does begin. The chief begins with a business, and that is very difficult to answer. Stone Claw coming down. It does evolve to the Rock Claw, and it does have Fortify, so it's a very powerful 4/6 for 3 mana. I do like that effect. Deacon Z playing a few non-traditional cards, and I do like it. Alright, we see the pass back. You'd like to get a little bit more value out of that Fortify than just the one business on the opponent's battlefield, but Deacon with 4. We see an attack for 6 and 2 on the Chief's last turn, and then a pass. Down comes a Flammy by the Chief. It does kill the Guaines, and then that results in a Retribution effect applying to the Uga Chief. And then we follow that up with the Speedy. Slice comes down, able to freeze with the Blizzard on the Chief, and then an attack with the Stone Claw. No Retribution damage when that Blizzard is applied. Here we see the Chief's famous double Earthquake turns. We've seen those multiple times. Does clean up the opposing board, but did cost a number of resources to accomplish that. I think if the Chief goes back and watches these games, I don't know if he does or not, but I would question the use of those double Earthquake attacks turns because I think they just are a little committal. And what they end up doing is spending a lot of your resources to answer the opponents, but I think it ends up being slightly worse trade in your favor. When I think you could be a little bit stronger by just, instead of focusing on those big double Earthquake turns, if you just maybe kept a few Earthquakes for times when they're absolutely necessary, but maybe spend a few of those card slots with just additional pressure, because the Chief's deck I find to be just so powerful that really when he takes those turns off to double Earthquake, it's almost like you're relieved. Like, great, okay, he didn't add anything extremely powerful to the board, you know? And at the end of the day, I think that will be a little more effective for the Chief. But who am I to judge? He is the top player in ranked right now, I believe. Let's see. I think Ood is top, but let's see if the Chief is number 2. The Chief. Oot is number 1, yep. At a 1405 ELO rating with 84 wins, 19 losses, and an 81% win rate, but the Chief right below at 78% win. Compared to me, telling him what to do at barely over a 50% win rate. So, Chief, thinking back, what I was just telling you, just ignore it. Just keep doing what you're doing. Now we see the Frossetti come down and freeze that monkey. Deacon really have to give credit to these players. Deacon missed, I believe, came in after the Gen 1 had fully launched on BSV, was able to get quite a number of Gen 1 cards through the Ordinals wallet. But we're seeing that he has nowhere near the Uga Chiefs and even the Ugas. I don't know. Does Deacon Z have the Ugas? Not sure. But nevertheless, what I was trying to say is that Deacon Z, you have to give credit to these players who are fighting seemingly an uphill battle against players like Chiefs Caliber that have, the purities. I mean, purity is like a $3,000 card. Right. Now we see an attack for speed by Speedy on the Mechafly, takes it down. But again, the Chief just unrelenting. The Deacon all the way down to 9. By the way, the Deacon is a deacon, I believe. He works in the church. Found that out the other day. Pegasol comes down for 2, and then I'm not sure what it was. Oh, I think that Deacon drew from an empty deck there. And that will deal 5 damage, enough to kill you if you are at 2. So we see the Chief moving on. A very valiant effort by the Deacon. Deacon, you gave it your all, but unfortunately the Chief just presented too fast, too furious, too strong, as we say. By the way, does anyone have a in to Magnus Carlsen? If you have an in to Magnus Carlsen, maybe we can see if we can get him streaming this. I know Svidler has an in with Magnus Carlsen. Let's see if we can ask Svidler to All right, so we have our finals is announced. That is Kiki versus Commander Chief. And the players just working it out right now in the Discord. Let's see if they are ready to get started. All right. Yeah, so players taking a moment just to settle themselves. In the meantime, let's take a look at the rankings. So as we mentioned before, Commander Chief, that's who you should be listening to when it comes to how to build your deck. He is number 2. Oot, seemingly impossible to replace at the top of the leaderboard. He was our Season 1 winner. He is still our currently world number 1. Raumond, still currently our world ranked number 2, but he has fallen all the way down to number 6 on the leaderboard. And then you see rounded out with some very powerful foes: Fukuchi, Rodnik, Zixfutskripan. Zixfutskripan also recently working out an agreement with the game to do some high-level streaming on Twitch. We can take a quick moment to go over to Twitch. So this is our page right here, Champions TCG. If you are not yet familiar with this platform, twitch.tv/champions TCG. It is a live streaming channel all about TCGs and all types of games, digital games. So come on over, check us out. We are streaming live. We do have 2 viewers on our Twitch channel, so thank you very much for checking us out over there. Some of the content partners that we are working with Astral's Flame here. We are working with Ben Stark, MTG Hall of Famer, who has been gracious enough to help us build the cards out, to help us develop the set mechanics and develop the organized play components of what we are building. Astral's Flame, another one of our streaming partners. Make sure you check out Astral's Flame on Twitch, and let's see if Jacob Wilson is on Twitch. Yeah, here he is. So Jacob was the subject of the Vice documentary on American card games, and one of my favorite all-time players. So he was someone that I personally reached out to invite to participate in the development of this game, and when he agreed to do so, in a way, it was kind of like a dream come true, because this is someone whose technical skill when it comes to card games I have long admired. So this is him right here, Zixvutskrapon. That is Jacob Wilson, Magic the Gathering Pro Tour finalist, and I believe one day one of the best players of all time. One day to be crowned with the title of a Hall of Famer. He is going to be streaming as well. We have Dozen down here, who I think, as strong of a player as Oot is and as strong as a deck, probably the player who I'd least be interested in facing on a given tournament is Dozen. Dozen is absolutely ruthless. Boulder Magic, a fixture in the Magic scene, and one of the best and most varied Magic the Gathering collections that I've ever seen. I've been to his house. He has a Magic the Gathering gumball machine, believe it or not. So, and then let's tune back into the play zone, see if we are live. We are live. Let's jump in. This is game 1 of our finals match. $50 free to enter tournament. They fire every day. My name's Brett. I'm your host, Brett Banffy, and you can join us too. Discord.gg/champions TCG. We are on turn, looks like turn 9. Cryoslice comes down, freezes that chief. It's taken care of, and Kiki getting rid of one of the most powerful creatures. Although the chief is at 51, and we see Kiki at 24, so it is for the time being, a slightly lopsided affair. There comes Purity, probably the best card in the game. An attack for 11. Add 3 more. That's 14. Kiki's at 10. Kiki is dead next turn if he cannot answer the Chief's board. And this is what happens when you be the aggressor, whether it's in life or whether it's in cards, and you inflict your will upon the world around you or your opponent's battlefield, force them into a reactive position. Now they're spending mana, limited resources, trying to deal with your tactics. This is what we call winning Magic. Down goes Purity, but is it enough? Finally, the Kiki is able to answer every one of the Chief's cards, but the Chief just reloads right away with another Ami. Ami with that greed mechanic draws 2 cards when nothing else on your side of the board is out, with Ami being the only card. It will get that extra card off the top of the library. Down comes Uga and it passed the turn, and we are very quickly seeing a game one dominant victory from the Chief. Down goes Fangs, cursing the Ami, and with 6 mana left, we can see what Kiki has, but the Chief, any rush card now. Down goes Dracora, 3 mana left. Guayin's comes down, so little too late for Kiki here. See if the Chief has the rush card needed to win, and he does, and it is a Generation 1 card. 5 mana, that is the card Rogorser. With the ability Rush for 5 mana, it is an 8/5 in the normal archetype. So important that it can get played in some of those dual element formats that we've seen popping up. Kiki dropping game 1 to the Chief, trying to see if he can push this to a game 3. The Chief, just relentless. Not only is he an extremely strategic player, also just has very, very aggressive card build. Down goes the Plague Scale. The Plague Scale comes into the battlefield, when the Thunderpur was cast. Plague Scale comes in off the egg because Zap deals 2 damage. The egg when the Thunderpur is played, it deals 2 damage to a random enemy champion. So that killed the Ponk, caused the Ponk to hatch, then the Plague Scale come out. That's why we saw that. That is a little bit of a new feature, how the eggs work. Shadowsteel comes down, and it has the Windseeker ability. Target any card on the field and move that card's next evolution from your deck to your hand. Draw if no valid evolution is found. Speedy attacks the Shadowsteel, then Eaglon gets in an attack for 2. Purity comes down as a 12/9. Mechwing returns it. Eaglon gets in 2, and then Snowgaze comes out for 4. Snowgaze draws 2 cards with that greed mechanic, drops the Grun. So ordinarily the Grun not as powerful of a card, but you have to be worried about it in these versions of the game. Glimmertard on the battlefield after Grun was killed through the Stana. Glimmertard, one of the cutest cards in the game, probably the cutest. Also one of the most expensive, despite being worthless in terms of its actual on the battlefield abilities. It does nothing, has no ability. It has the lowest possible power attack value and the lowest possible health value. It also has the highest possible mana value, but it's so cute. Just look at it. It's a golden salamander. It's not really even a salamander. It's a tadpole that is in the process of becoming a frog. Purity comes down. It blesses that Glimmertard. And we have to just quickly screenshot this for those watching at home. The Glimmertard doing work. Again, my name is Brett Banfi. This is Champions TCG that you're listening to, that you're tuning into right now. Make sure you check us out in the Discord. Let us know what your thoughts are on the game, where you'd like to see it go from here, what's working, what's not. Shadowsteel on the battlefield. Purity comes back down after being returned by the Mechafly. Glimmertard doing work. 7/1. Let's go. Unfortunately, I think that the Glimmer Dart has likely seen its last attack. I imagine that this turn will be its last, but still, we have to give it a lot of credit for its ability to hang around, to be a Glimmertard. Give it credit for being a Glimmertard. That is not a sentence I ever thought I would say. But here we are. It's Tuesday. All right, the Chief does it, I think, in 2 games. That is it. Game over. $50 free to enter these tournaments. You too can enter our free tournament events. Come on down to the championstcg.com store. We'll show you that store one more time, and we will sign off for today, but make sure you check it out. You can navigate to this page, buy cards. The cards are available for sale. In fact, let's do one. Let's buy one right now. And we will give away the rare card to a viewer. So if you're watching right now, we are going to do a quick stream. I want to use my hand cash funds to pay for the cards. So let's go through the process before we buy them on hand cash. I just want to go through this process of what it looks like to buy them. You can choose how many of these you would like to check out. So let's just go with one. This will navigate you over to a very simple page where you input your email address, decide how to pay. You can use PayPal. You can use, all types of ways to pay, and then yeah, go through the process. Choose Pay Now. That gets you your cards. Once you have your cards, you just click out here. You go to My Cards, or there's a button called View My Cards, etc., and view my purchase cards. You can either press it right here in the middle at the top of the screen, or you can press My Cards at the top tab, and that will navigate you over to see the cards that you just purchased. You don't need to create an account. You just verify an email address. That will give you enough to get started collecting. And then if you want to sell them on an open marketplace, you can upgrade your account to be able to interact with an open digital marketplace being organized and maintained by Handcash. Handcash Labs USA. Shout out to Handcash, the best people on the planet. They have been instrumental to helping build and develop this project. So for right now, we are going to sign off, but before doing so, I'll show you how Handcash works. I can either open this, pay for this pack by clicking this button right here, Open in Handcash, where I've already signed in and my funds are already available. Or if you are tuning in, you can see in the bottom of the screen, I have my Handcash open. So I can just load that up. There is the Handcash logo. I have a QR code scanner right here. I can, QR code scanner right up here. Press my QR code scanner. Now that I have this, I can move back to the page that I was looking at. And there it is. I can point this. There you go. I've made the payment. And once I make the payment, you can see that I don't press any buttons. The platform just knows that that my payment has been made. The cards are immediately opened and on my app, and then I can see what I got. So let's see if I will open anything of value. I will first of all make my screen big so that you can see, and then we are going to go through my cards. So I got a Draconics, a Prana, uh, Pida. By the way, whatever the rare card is in this, if you want this card, make sure you drop your handle in the comments, tag me in this live stream, tag your friends, tag the Champions TCG account. Let us know that you really, really, really want the mythic or the rare, whatever it is, and we will give it to you. The only thing is that if it is the White Lotus, keep in mind that we will not give it out in the comments. We will give it out in a future tournament. Let's see. We have the Ice Eagle. That is a rare. So already, let's see. This is Coralfin is a rare too. So on only my 10 pack, I do have at least 5 rares. 6, 7. Ice Eagle, a very good card. Rot Petal, 8. White. You can't even see it because the screen is so bright. Okay, there we go. White. And then, all right, it was Protectron. So, even out of this, the Protectron, a very good card, but if I were you out there and I wanted one of these cards, I would want that Ice Eagle. That is the card that I think is the strongest. There's also White, which is very good. So, yeah, if you want that, make sure you tag me, Manifestival, on the Twitter account and in our live stream, and I will be sure to get that over to you. Make sure you drop your handle, your hand cash handle, so that I know where to send the card. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in for our daily $50 event, and see you next time.